From time to time, we hear stories about how incredibly beautiful and diverse Alabama is. This isn't just propaganda. The state was remarked upon by the early travelers as being unusually rich in landscape and plants and animals. The reason for this is that Alabama has a large number of different geological regions. These regions weather to form a variety of different landscapes, and these landscapes have on them a large number of plants and animals. This is perhaps the most geographically diverse area in eastern North America. Most of us are aware that the Earth is quite old, and that the geological forces that are moving the fractured surface of the Earth around, a process we call plate tectonics, have been at work for a very long time, perhaps 4.5 billion years. There is a point at which all of the continents are close together, in many cases touching, to produce the supercontinent, which has been dubbed Pangaea. As Africa presses against the eastern coast of North America, it pushes up a giant range of mountains. The Appalachians, which are originally the size of the Alps, they are older than the Rockies, they are as tall as the Rockies, and for the last 300 million years, they've been eroding. And finally, about 200 million years ago, the supercontinent begins to break apart. And so the whole landscape of the East has been greatly eroded, and all of the pieces have washed to the Atlantic and washed to the Gulf of Mexico and built this enormous coastal plain, this new part of Alabama. One of the most interesting maps about Alabama is the Geologic Map. And at first glance, it is this bewildering patchwork quilt of different colors. So what does all this mean? Basically, what it means is that individual colors on the map indicate differing ages of the surface rocks. And so by examining the different ages, we can see where the big collision of Pangaea has happened. We can see where it has rifted and where it has eroded, and the formation of the coastal plain. The present landscape is the eroded remnants of this great mountain range pushed up during Pangaean times. The Piedmont is the broken, twisted, unrecognizable remains of the mountain roots. The valley and ridge is the wrinkled landscape pushed up like a rug on a polished floor and greatly eroded. The plateau is the fractured, crazed landscape where the rivers have eaten out the twisted remnants of the cracks along which it's broken. And then the highland rim is the edge of the big dome called the Nashville Dome in Tennessee, in which limestone has been brought up from below. And the limestone nature of the highland rim is due to that fact. So you've got this hard uplands, this northern Alabama. The edge of these hard rocks, where it transitions to the soft rocks of the coastal plain, is the fall line. Every time a river flows off of this hard uplands and encounters this softer coastal plain, it is expressed as a set of falls or a set of rapids. It's hard to overestimate the importance of the fall line. Everything changes at the fall line. The geology changes, the geography changes, the character of the river changes. Plants and animals that live below the fall line are different from the plants and animals that live above the fall line. And as you go south, the landscape flattens out. The rivers begin to meander back and forth. And very shortly, you're in the Black Belt, which is we call the upper coastal plain. It's the old dinosaur age coastal plain. the lower coastal plain, the flat, piney woods, Alabama, that we all have seen on our way to the coast, we can call the Pine Belt. The river valleys, of course, are still full of swamps and canebrakes, but the uplands are covered in longleaf pine. By the time you get to the coast, you're entering very close into modern times. Beginning about 15,000 years ago, the ice ages come to an end and the sea level rises. There's a big river valley in southwest Alabama where the Tombigbee and the Alabama come together, which then becomes flooded by the ocean when the sea level rises. The northern end of this big river valley begins to fill with sediment from the rivers. And this filled-in portion is the Tennessee Delta, or the Mobile Delta, if you would. The lower end of the valley is not completely filled in yet, and that's what we call Mobile Bay. Alabama's resources, provided to us by nature for thousands of years in the past, have set the stage for Alabama history. The first Alabamians, the Native Americans, are hunter-gatherers, and they are utilizing the entire environment as different food sources come into season throughout the year. They're up in the caves and bluff shelters of North Alabama. They're down next to the river at different times of the year. Later, they become agriculturalists and settle in the river valleys. These are the Mississippians, the mound builders. And they are clearing the river valleys and raising corn on the river bottom soils, just like their successors, the European and African Americans who come. Competition for really the same resource, the river bottoms, is at heart the basis for the disagreement between the Native Americans and their successors. So by the time the European Americans took over all of this, bringing with them the Africans, we found that the state was good for different things in different places. The Black Belt has been termed the Saudi Arabia of cotton. At one point, it was literally the wealthiest real estate in the world. You could raise so much cotton there that everybody who had large holdings in the Black Belt could expect to get rich. Up in the broken country of the Plateau region, the area was rich in coal, which fell right into the fortunate juxtaposition of iron ore, limestone, and coal around Birmingham. All of this stuff within 4 or 5 miles of that area. And this is what leads to the post-Civil War iron industry and really makes Alabama an industrial state. These resources are all still important. We're still involved in utilizing these ancient resources. Mining is still a factor in the state. Limestone, coal bed methane. We are beginning to discover new uses for old lands. There's less agriculture in the Black Belt, but on the other hand, it makes wonderful catfish ponds. We're still doing scientific forestry over a great deal of the state, and we're discovering, interestingly, that the longleaf pine that was here in the first place is, again, an important idea. So the truth of the matter is that Alabama is a beautiful place. It ranges from these beautiful white beaches, this broad plain full of pine trees, hardwood forests, waterfalls, sparkling rivers, mountains, caves. We really have it all. And we should preserve this place because it is a diverse place. We've got more animals, we've got more plants, we've got more different landscapes than almost any place else on earth.